So since it's just the two of us, we're not going to do any headphones. I trust we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll just move this a little bit closer to you. And then this will be it. This is going to be how we start the podcast.
Heck yeah.
Right now, no holds barred. I'm going to ask you the tough questions. Are you ready to answer them?
I am. Before we answer any questions, I brought a gift to be
Oh my Lord. Okay.
Not anything like super crazy, but it's just some Kahone merch. It's a little wrinkly because I grabbed it out of the bin. But it's the big, beautiful, bodacious Kahone shirt. It might need
cool, actually.
it might need ironed.
I like that it looks like an auto body shop.
Yeah.
Type. This looks like you thrifted it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Whenever I'm for shirts and stuff, I want it to be like very subtle. That way, even if someone like comes to a show and they're like, "This guy sucked," you'd be like, "I'd still wear that shirt." You know what I mean? But try to make stuff that like, unless you're looking, you don't know what it is.
Yeah, so let's do this. Let's put do kind of like a.
Yeah, I appreciate the gesture. But it's a really comfy shirt, man. Hanes beefy tee. Now, I am very passionate. I hate when people buy like the Fruit of the Loom bottom barrel, or sometimes they go the next step up, Canva.
Oh, I won't print anything on anything other than Comfort Colors now.
Yeah, Comfort Colors is good. Yeah. Anything so like Hanes beefy tee, and the quality has gone down over like the past year. You get a vintage Hanes beefy tee, it's like 3 pounds. Now they say it's like 16.1 ounces. I don't believe it, but that's what I print on because they're great for oversized shirts, and like I like a thick shirt.
Definitely.
Passion. Sorry.
I don't know. I mean, so I operate in this world where I like, to wear like rock and roll and heavy metal t-shirts. And it's like, I don't know why my heavy metal t-shirts have to be printed on fucking like athletic material now.
Dude, yes.
It's so silly.
Yep.
Like, I don't need this form-fitting Slayer t-shirt.
Yeah,
like,
bro.
I want like a fucking thing that's like, 10,000 pounds and looks like,
yes. And
like it's heavy.
But I think these companies, like, it's breathable. This is what people want.
Oh, yeah.
It's just an excuse for them to, like, I think it's a cost thing. They give you less material, less cotton spins or wherever the thread counts.
Definitely.
And
I know. I mean, like, I sell a lot of merch with my bands, and I've heard some people that say they prefer like the soft feel stuff. And I just say, you know what? Suck it up, coward.
Yeah. Because they don't know.
Acting like we live in fucking like Orlando, Florida or something.
Yeah, bro.
We're in the fucking Northeast here.
I agree. And in Pittsburgh, yes, in Pittsburgh specifically, you need a shirt.
Yeah, you need a heavyweight shirt in this climate.
Yeah, 60 some days a year where the sun's out?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I believe that because in my mind, I think we're all brainwashed. Winters are so bad that when I think of Pittsburgh, I think of like today where it's so sunny. And then like you forget, it's so we don't leave. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in my mind, every day's sunny in Pittsburgh, but I know that's not the reality.
I feel like it's like if you're in Pittsburgh, you need to wear a shirt that can resist like spilling some ranch dressing or some ketchup on you.
Mm-hmm.
You spill some ranch dressing on you in one of them soft feel shirts, it's going right through.
Put a hole.
Now it's a whole thing. Yeah, it'll eat a hole in that stuff.
Bro, and I love I love hot dogs. That's I don't know how it happened, but it has become synonymous with like the whole Kahone thing. But like for a while, I was going to Costco like once a day because they have the like $1.49, $1.50 drink in a hot dog. So I was going there and getting that. And whenever I put the ketchup on, I'm always dropping it on whatever. So if the shirt is like a shirt that can't withstand that, like you said, I can only wear it like once. Now I love wearing I wear shirts with holes in them, stains. But sometimes the lady, she's like, listen, man, we can't go out with you looking like you just got run over by the Oscar Mayer mobile. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
So that's why you gotta worry about like a good thick shirt.
All right. So 2 questions.
Yes.
If you got run over by the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, would they assume it was blood or think it was ketchup first? What's the question?
I think their PR team would be on it and be like, sir, you're fine. That's just a little bit of ketchup. But then they'd be like, go over to the hospital.
Yes. Now, my second question is, what exactly is the Kahone Concept, and does it have to do with ketchup?
That is a great question. So, it can have to do with ketchup. So when I was like 16, I was in high school and in this woodshop class, And it was like a class where you made of it what you want to get out of it. But like for a lot of people, it's kind of like a blow off class where they would just show up and hang out. And then the role was each like semester, whatever it is in high school, you had to do at least like one project. And for me, I didn't really want to build anything. So I'm like, it'd be really easy to build like a cajon, the ones you sit on and just like bounce on and like hit a little bit. I'm like, it's just a box with like a little snare reed in there. So that's what I built. And then I drew a little Sasquatch guy on there because I thought I was clever. And then I hit it one time and put a hole through it. So I rebuilt it, and this time with a little thicker material, and then took electrical tape and made this little triangle symbol thing. And then when I was 16, I'm like, that's cool. That'd be cool to like make a band logo. But I was really shy about it. So I didn't tell anyone, but like I draw it everywhere. And then people would be like, what the heck is that? And I'm like, oh, it's just like the Kahone symbol. And they're like, well, what does it mean? I'm like, I don't know. It just means whatever you want it to mean. And so I knew what it meant to me. It represented music and like what I wanted out of life. But to other people, like it didn't mean anything because they didn't know what it was. So I just thought the idea of like things don't really have meaning unless you give them meaning, and where they can mean whatever you want was kind of cool. And then flash forward through a couple years, I'm like, this is the worst band name in the world. Everyone's asking me, how do you spell it? What the heck does that mean? What even is Kahone? And then fast forward to the past year, I completely changed up like kind of branding, if you would call it. Now I love the name because it sounds ridiculous. And growing up, I was always like a super hyper child, and I just love bullshitting. And then I used to think like you had to take music so seriously. And then the past year, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do whatever. And started with, I wrote a bio that is complete BS. It says I'm 56. And so like, if you read all this stuff, which I am 56, if anyone asks.
Yeah.
So if you like read all this stuff, it's clearly just like crazy. But I started sending that out to like radio stations or like blogs, and then they post it. And I'm like, wow, nothing matters.
Oh yeah.
So I just embraced the goofiness. And then now like Kahone to me sounds like some sort of like, there's like a place in Erie called Splash Lagoon. It sounds like a water slide of some sort. You know what I mean? Like the Kahone water slide or the big Kahone or something. So now like I like the name again, but it definitely has went through its stages.
All right. So it didn't have anything to do with ketchup, but the story that you gave me is better.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's fine.
It can be about ketchup though, I suppose.
Yeah. The future's big and bright.
It is big and
bright.
Red. In very red.
Yes.
Very red.
So I think it's cool that you are just embracing what has like accidentally become your identity, because like that is what's great about art, is like you're not, when you don't force it, and like one day you just like kind of blink and you're like, oh shit, like it's here.
Yeah.
I didn't
for sure.
like try to make this happen. It just became me.
Yeah.
It's like the art found you in some weird mystical way.
Dude, 1 billion %. And it's something that no matter how much you tell people, they're not going to experience it until they're ready to. And like, it made it, 1, the process of everything is so much more fun. 2, it is way easier. And 3, like, it's just more fun. I guess that's 2 of the same one. So like, what I see a lot of, especially with local bands, is in our spare time, we put our heart and soul into this stuff, and it means so much to us, and we want to be taken seriously. And from a lot of people, you're not taken seriously. Someone could look at a band that is local, has no fans, and think their music sucks, they're not going anywhere. Then 3 months, say they have a song blow up on TikTok, they're like super famous, they're going to go to that show, like, this band's awesome, because they have the social like justification behind it, or the social credibility. And so I forget what I was saying. I think I have ADHD. Oh, I get it. I remember what I was saying now. So they like think that they have to act a certain way to like make people think that they're already at that level. And so they'll like try to like, almost every band, especially when they start out, that what I call it like the mysterious phase, where they're like very like what's the word for like, we're like almost coded or like puzzly or like mysterious, you know what I mean? And so they'll make like an Instagram post, and to them it's like, yeah, this is a cool teaser or like a cool Easter egg. And it's like, dude, you're at this stage where like you got to beg your grandma and your mom to come to the gig, they're not gonna like go to your website and like dive
Oh,
in
yeah.
all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that shit annoys me so much. It's like I get where it's coming from because I've been there too. But it's like I could say, and I don't know how old you are, but like, okay, so I'm 38 years old,
Mhm.
and I've been,
I got 22 years on you.
yeah, that's true.
What,
according to
yeah,
according
22.
to the bio,
Yeah.
yes. But I've been putting out music for more than half of my life. You know what I mean? Like I put out my like first thing when I was like 16 years old, and like I've been through all of those stages and all of that type of stuff. So it's like in hindsight now, it's like I know what I was trying to do then.
Mhm.
So I know what people were doing, and I
Yep.
can like empathize with that, like trying to like dress for the job you want sort of
Yeah.
thing. But like it didn't work then. And that was like, before like social media and everything. And it's certainly not gonna work now when like everybody's like, look at what I'm doing, look at what I'm doing. Nobody cares about your like, look at what I'm about to do.
Exactly.
Look at what I might be doing.
Yep.
And like doing that kind of shit actually backfires, I find, where it's just like, it's best to just shut up and post something when you have it.
Mhm.
That way, if anybody does engage with it, they're actually engaging with the art, because
Mhm.
nobody's gonna like write down the release date of your album or things like that.
Yeah, amen.
It's just realistic.
Yeah. Yep.
Unfortunately, it's like most people are like, most of the time I find out about somebody releasing something because I got 2 minutes while I'm waiting in line to check something out at Home Depot.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
And like, okay, like cool, like maybe I'll remember that Ben's putting something out. Maybe not.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not setting aside time to be like, I'm going to sit down on my computer device and I'm going to engage with local art today.
Mhm.
I mean, that seems like a good idea. I probably should, but it's hard to do that. Everybody has their own shit going on.
Yeah, that's something I'm trying to be better at. Over the past couple months, specifically with local bands, I've been trying to be a lot more up to date with what's going on, because I've always been into like the local scene, but there's so many bands, like especially around like Millville town, where I'm like, I've never even heard of, like, there's so many bands that I've never even heard of.
It's crazy.
And then so to kind of combat that, what I do is I go on Spotify and I type in Pittsburgh music, and you know how you have like your release radar, Discover Weekly, they have auto curated playlists of Pittsburgh bands. So like,
cool. I didn't know
you
that.
can just type it in and then you'll get stuff that like, because normally you find out their bands through like your friends and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you get so many obscure bands that you're like, I have no idea who this is, you know what I mean? And then some stuff you're like, wow, this is amazing. Some stuff you're like, it's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
I mean, for me, obviously doing the podcast has helped me a huge amount in terms of like knowing what's going on.
Mhm.
And that's like, there's many reasons why I started the show. And that being one of them, really, it was just like feeling so disconnected from the scene at the time when I started the podcast. Like I technically wasn't playing in any bands, I'd like kind of gotten kicked out of one, another one had fallen apart. I was making solo music that like, I didn't even like, probably, just like trying to figure it out.
You got to find out like who you are.
Totally. And like, now it's like, I have people on the show. Like I just had a band on the show that was telling me about a venue, like some skate shop in New Kensington that I had never heard of, where they've been playing shows, and they're talking about other bands that they play shows with there. And I'm like, I don't know anything you're saying to me. And this is like 25 minutes away from me.
Mhm.
It's like, and they're a band that reached out to me to be on the show. So if they wouldn't have reached out to me, I wouldn't even fucking know that this band really exists.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy that there's all these little pockets of things, is like as deep as you think your hands are in the soup, there's always something else at the bottom. There's always more soup.
Dude, it's crazy. And I feel bad sometimes because I'm really passionate about Pittsburgh. Like I always say that, like, especially like in my shows and stuff, there'll be like a bridge in one of the songs where I kind of give my like little Pittsburgh speech. And it's essentially, it's like, Ben, why don't you move to like Nashville? Why don't you move to like New York, Los Angeles? And I say it's because like, if I can't find success here in Pittsburgh first, then like, I don't want success anywhere else. So, like, to me, people kind of look at Pittsburgh as like a hard market, and I see like the potential. There's so many like hungry people here that want it to be like Nashville or like Los Angeles, and there's always going to be obstacles. But if you look at a lot of the bands or artists that have found success, they didn't really do it in Pittsburgh. It's been a while since you had something like that. Like, even to this day, we're still like referring to like the Clarks or like Rusted Root, and they're still valid, great bands. But over the past, 20 years, I haven't seen as much of a new wave. I think Code Orange is probably one of like the few that I can think of that, like, I'm pretty sure all those dudes and girls still live here.
Yeah, definitely. And like, really all it was for any of those bands, for any artists, like at this point, genuinely, it really, unless like you want to be a part of the Nashville culture, whatever the fuck that means anymore, which is like low key, like, I don't know, like if you just want to get songwriting credits and make money that way, go to Nashville. If you just want to do a bunch of like podcasts and cocaine, go to Los Angeles. But like, if you just want to like make music and share it with people, get your ass on the road. That's it. Just play as many fucking shows as possible. That's what fucking Code Orange does. Yeah, they all live here. They play shows all over the fucking world. It's like your home base doesn't particularly matter as long as you get your ass on the road and you're playing shows. I think it's different for some people where like maybe they want to do more than just make music. I think some people want to be like a whole brand identity and kind of like launch this whole aura around them. So I could see that being a little bit harder. Maybe then it's a good idea to go to a network or go to a city where you can network more with other people that are in all these different realms of things. So you can kind of create this, like a spider web of possibilities and opportunities and things like that. But I mean, if all you're trying to do is just like write your own music for yourself and play shows, just tour.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't even have to move to Pittsburgh to do that.
No.
But I think how I feel about it is I agree with a lot of what you said. I'm very guilty of not touring. I mean, I would, but like today, I have no idea how that would be sustainable for me.
It's fucking hard. It ain't easy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Fuck no. And like, it's a lot of the time, is it even worth it?
Which,
I mean, it depends on your value, what worth means to you. The older you get, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
You start doing things like finding love and finding mortgages and shit like that. Good luck, brother.
Yeah, bro. I am in the thick of that right now.
And like, those are all great things. Those are all beautiful things to be happy and thankful for. And then you start asking yourself these existential questions of like, what is the meaning of my life? What do I really want out of life? And
dude,
sometimes
I got chills right now. I'm currently going through it.
Fucking crazy, dude. It's crazy.
When I was 18, I thought to myself, I don't want to be on my deathbed and think, why didn't I go 100% and try for music? I could have did it. And then so I've been grinding for almost like 10 years now. And then now I'm starting to think, okay, what if I'm on my deathbed and I think, wow, I was really selfish. All I did was thinking about just music. What about like love? What about the family? What about like being a person outside of just that? And I think like, well, I don't want to regret that. I don't want to regret that. And then it's just like, you sit there thinking like, oh shit, like I'm just going to watch Netflix. I can't think about this anymore.
Sure.
But
it's paralyzing to some degree if you like let yourself get too in it, and I've been there plenty of times. I feel like I was there 2 days ago. It comes and goes. It never goes away. Like if you give a fuck, that's like the curse of giving a fuck. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
But it's cool though. Like that drive is what like helps motivate me to keep making art, because, that's one of the only things that I have. A lot of my art comes from a bit of like a darker, angrier place, I suppose. And when so much stuff is going good in my life, it's like, what the fuck am I even going to write a song about? I got to find something, So there's kind of like still that little fire in me trying to figure it out. And I just got to like try to remember like, hey, like, I still have homies that fuck with what I do. We could still play a show. If here and people are going to come out, we could play a show an hour away. Not as many people, but some people might come out. And, it's like we've pushed as much as we could. We've had ups and downs, but it's like, I still have this. I still have like records that we've put out. I still have friends that I've made at shows and all of these experiences. And it's not like headlining festivals all over the world, but that's still like more than most normal people get to do. It's a lot of cool shit.
Absolutely.
So it's like trying not to take what you have for granted, but also still trying to push stuff. But then there's, like we were talking about, those like expectations of like, how far can I really go with a tour? What could I do? Is it worth it to do it and eat my ass just to say that I did it? Or is it better off to not do it? What if? I don't know. If anybody knew the answers to these questions, there probably wouldn't be a podcast in existence.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to figure it out.
I would love nothing more than to go on a tour. Where it gets tricky for me is now what the Kahone show has become is more than just showing up and playing tunes. There's like kind of skits involved now, and then there's a theme to it. And I do everything independently, like build the stage set and stuff, and then program lights, and then like do all the tracks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And now, since I primarily play in Pittsburgh, kind of the sky's the limit, where I can bring all this stuff on stage, and like if I can think it and imagine it, I do my best to make it happen. Whereas if I were to take that on the road, the show would have to really cut down just to be sustainable. I mean, I think either way, I'm gonna, like, if I were to go on tour right now, it would be a huge financial loss. But like, then you think like about the passion.
And then
that's
like
what matters.
sacrificing what the art is.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways too.
And so for me right now, it's something I'm thinking about. Like, I really want to do it, but I want every experience. If I play in a new city, a lot of people, it's gonna be the first time they see me. I want them to get the full like Kahone show.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. It's just how I feel. Maybe it's me overthinking about it. I mean,
well, so you're talking to somebody that can really relate with your struggles. I've played in a band. I have a band called Normal Creatures. We used to play under the name Sykes and the New Violence, different name, same band.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we're talking at a point. I was doing like multiple projection mapping, outfit changes, DMX light cues. You
ever work with the DMXs? Blue box.
Yeah, I use it's like the N-Tech one.
The Show Buddy.
It's
Emu.
It's like a little blue one. I forget which one it's called. It's just Velcroed into my fucking rack unit.
I know you're talking about.
It's like it's a little tiny blue box, but all that fucking shit. Having like extra actors and costume, like the whole fucking thing. And I'm at the point now where like I've gotten like so fed up with it. Mostly because from a performance perspective, I found myself having a really hard time being able to actually be present to perform at a show.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to be fucking LD, front of house, monitor engineer. I'm trying to do all this fucking shit and perform.
Yep.
What the fuck am I doing? And in my head, it's this cool fucking thing, right? And I remember like having this album release show and like we did all this fucking shit. And like my buddy, like weeks later, I saw him at some house party and he was just like, the show was cool, but you could just like play songs, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, like
I'm guilty of that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like all these like interludes and all this stuff. And for me, it's like this like grand artistic statement of like what I'm trying to do. But then it's like empathizing with like, okay, most people that are coming out think they're just coming to see a live show. They're not coming to like a fucking Broadway experience. So like you're throwing a lot at them. You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, you thought you were getting burgers? This ain't just a burger. This is a fucking triple fucking burger with all this extra shit on it.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
So, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, well, this is what it is to me. And like, I wrestle with that so fucking much. Like, even like to this day, like the show has adjusted in different ways. I have found that the more people I get into the band, the less I want to put stuff on stage. I think at first we had such a small footprint on stage. There's only a few of us. So there was extra space where I could put all this stuff.
Dude, yeah, you're speaking to my soul right now.
And now it gets hard, but it's like, I'm kind of in this point now where it's like, I feel like I should be able to just play shows if I want to play shows, like opening up, playing in the middle. I'm not bringing the whole fucking thing. We're just going to play some fucking songs for 25, 30 minutes, give them a show, get out of here. You want to see the whole thing? come see us when we're fucking headlining Heinz Field or something down the road.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel that it's something I am constantly learning. Like I don't have my shit figured out at all. So I'm not afraid of like failing. Like
totally.
I definitely like welcome it. It sucks doing cringy things, but that's how you learn. But
I just thought of another thing too. The most recent issue that we had was I had all of my DMX wireless.
Yeah.
And then we updated our in-ear monitors.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved to like those like X5 packs.
Oh yeah, the Wi-Fi.
And for whatever reason, the frequencies were interrupting with each other. So now
that's
the
so
wireless
shitty.
DMX won't work with the wireless monitors. So now we have to hardwire all of the lighting.
Are your wirelesses like the Chinleys or the Donner? They're
no,
like silver.
it's the X5.
Not the wireless DMX.
Chinley, yeah.
That's what I'm using those guys.
Yeah. And it's like fuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the X5. My gripe with those is my best friend, Caleb. He's like pretty much the second member of Kahone Concept at this point. He bought the X5, and I told him to straight up go with radio signal because right now the Wi-Fi has come a long way for in-ears and like performance, but I don't know that there's a solution that's like perfect yet. But he bought the X5, and he has one transmitter and like 5 receivers, so you have one of the same mix for everyone.
Yeah.
But then the dude has a Behringer XR18, so he has capabilities of running like 7 different in-ear mixes. And then I'm like, what?
So that's what we did now is we have enough transmitters for everybody.
Cool.
And I'm running all of our in-ear stuff through like a touch mix or QSC 16 touch mix.
Cool.
Having everybody do like their in-ear mixes and like the fucking app on the phone, they can control it themselves. We have all that shit. And it's dope.
Yeah.
But now we got to hardwire the lights.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm just like, fuck the lights.
Hardwiring lights is such a pain in the ass because if you mess up that like daisy chain DMX thing, it gets so nasty. That's one nice thing about the wireless. It just quickly figures it out. But with any production like aspect, anything wireless is another variable.
Oh yeah.
So like I use Touch OSC to like trigger my Ableton session. And there's the option to wirelessly have your iPad connected to your MacBook via, I think, Bluetooth. And I love it because it always, like, when I'm at home, it works. I tried it once at a show and it didn't work. I'm like, shit. So now I run in a 25-foot USB cable. So I can, just like, I try to eliminate all the variables that I can. But DMX cables were one thing that I'm like, if I'm going to have it, as an opening band, which I primarily do, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
I got to be able to set this up and tear it down in like 10 minutes or less.
Yeah. We had it. I had like the fucking, so I had the wireless DMX and like those like wireless camping packs that have like the AC outlet on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had those fucking Velcro to the side of all the lights. So my power was wireless too.
Wow.
So I would fucking like turn everything on. Like basically I would like get my little computer rack and I would always have it like set up in the corner. Like,
yeah.
I would be the first person. Can I just put this here and set it up?
Dude,
get
we
the
are the
laptop
same.
up. And then just fucking like boot up all the fucking lights backstage. So as soon as we go, like everything's on, ready to go.
Oh my gosh. You and I are like the same person at this point. I totally relate.
Yeah.
And then like before your sound check, you were sound checking like well before anyone of your band got on stage.
We're like doing like the
up.
visual check all the time. Yeah. It was like, just like always have to be there. Like, especially like being like the middle band, being the idiot, bringing the projector. Like I got to get there before the first band's drummer gets there so I could put it up against the wall. Like, don't mind me. I'm just, can
I say something to the other local musicians?
Yeah.
When you show up and you're sound checking, don't play over your time and get your shit off stage. Like, if we can bring lights and get all that stuff set up and still have 5 minutes to spare.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It drives me nuts, and it's always local bands. If you want to be professional, take yourself professionally and show up on time and play within your scheduled time. End your set 5 minutes early. Like if you have a 30-minute set, try to make it 25 minutes.
Well, I'm gonna give you a little bit of. Well, actually, this isn't even pushback because I agree with you. All I want to say is, can you imagine how nice it must be to be that like unself-aware, to not think about those kind of things? To be so relaxed that you're not even worried about like your life to the exact moment.
It's
because
probably
like
nice.
because like I'm like that all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And it must be nice to like get done playing a set and not have this existential dread of needing to like get everything.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I could take my time. That's cool.
It's crazy, man. I see what you mean. Maybe I view it differently. Maybe I viewed it differently. Like
No,
that's a perspective that I should probably think about.
You know, I mean, they're still not in the right by any means, but also I think that I know that I can't speak for you because I'm not in your head, but I know there's been times where I get like so cranky about like stuff that really isn't that big of a deal.
Oh, for sure.
Like, okay, like, so, you know, the show at Mr. Small's Funhouse is going 4 minutes over and it's just me and 3 other local bands. Like, we all live 20 minutes away. It's not a big deal.
Sure. Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But there is something to be said though about just like the professionalism and like just being on top of it.
Yeah, I'm a lot more relaxed than probably what I used to be. But I've been in enough situations with local bands where like, and it's hard to like tell people things because everyone's really touchy about it and sensitive.
Sure.
But like, there are some people that will show up and like legit bring like a Hammond B3 in a rotary, which is great. But it's like, dude, your set is like 20 minutes. Save your back. And like, it's coming from someone that brings a bunch of unnecessary stuff. But like, if you're going to bring the stuff, you got to be prepared to like, because I don't know, once you go over time, then the sound guys get so pissed off. And I have worked with great sound guys. I've worked with terrible sound guys. But there definitely is a stereotype that applies to a lot of sound guys. For some reason, they get angry very easily. And I get it whenever you're dealing with local bands and it's not just, I'm sure there's touring acts that do the same things. It's easy to get frustrated and upset about these things. But what I hate is rude people. And when like sound guys get like rude to me, it makes me like so anxious that like, I'm like, I want to go home. Like I get like so overwhelmed. And usually it stems from like people being late and like playing over or like coming unprepared. And
yeah, like we played Normal Creatures, played a show this past. We played a show at a venue. I don't want to throw anything out there. It doesn't particularly matter.
Doesn't matter.
And like the people there are good, great venue, good sound people, but like the sound person, the funny thing is this dude technically, he runs sound at the venue for most of the shows, but he technically wasn't like the lead front of house engineer for this show. He was just there like helping train somebody on like a monitor mic. He was there for some reason. But anyways, so he's not even technically the front of house guy for this fucking show, but he's talking to every fucking band like they're fucking children.
I hate that, dude.
And that shit was just like annoying to me. Like, I understand that like it was one of those situations where fair enough, the people that booked the show didn't think that it would be a good idea to have like a production manager on the show. So everybody was kind of dilly-dallying and somebody kind of needed to like, which I guess is like frustrating. But dude, it was just like the way that it's just like, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like you could feel it where it's just like,
it's like, dude, I feel like you don't want me here. Like you knew what you were doing today. You knew like the job was to like show up and like, you're going to be the sound guy. My job was to show up, be the band. Like we both love music. Chances are you're in your own band. Like we want to have a good time, but it's like, why? It feels like you're like personally like coming at me and I don't know why.
Yeah. And it's like, it's another thing that's annoying specifically with Normal Creatures is like, I kind of was like, okay, in my head, my band, we're like a backtrack heavy band, right? You know, we have drums and guitar and bass and stuff like that, but there's a lot like synth and samples and backing and things like that. And it's like, sure, it's like I could give you just a fucking stereo line out with all this stuff, have fun with it, but like I like have like everything fucking routed out. So I feel like it's like if I was the sound person running sound at a show and someone was like, hey, here's a line with the synth, here's a line with the backing guitars, here's a line with the backing vocals, so you can mix it to the room, make it sound good. I'd be like, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
But like 9 times out of 10, all these sound guys look at me like I'm annoying them because I'm giving them extra channels to mix. And it's like, okay, I guess then I'll just give you the stereo line and do it myself.
Bro, you hit a part in my soul that resonates so many times. And it's what I've noticed, and I was talking to Caleb about this. I think maybe some of the sound guys don't have a lot of experience with bigger productions or maybe touring acts. Maybe they're like used to doing smaller, because most of the shows I'm on are like small scale shows. Like I'm like a nobody. Like I'm not doing like these like big crazy gigs. But like I think maybe like if you play a gig at Stage AE and you give 8 tracks, backing tracks to that sound guy, he's not even gonna like think about it. He's like, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
But like if you were to go to a smaller club venue that primarily like local bands play at and you give them 8 tracks, they're gonna be like, dude, our mixer only has like 16 channels. The drum kit's 8. We have 3 other bands. You don't need to use this. And they get like really mad.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did you ask for the input list like 3 weeks ago? You knew we were coming with this.
I used to put like the silliest shit in my stage plots to see if anybody would ever read them.
Yeah.
And there was only one person or like one team of people. It was actually when we played Millville Music Fest a few years ago. We played like one of the Gap Park stage, and whoever, like, they always get like a random group of people. And like, I remember like whenever I got there, like they were like, you know, what band are you? And I was like, Sex and New Violence. They're like, oh, you're the rolling around on the floor band. Because like I had like the whole stage plot set up, and then like I had a big square on there, and it was just like, this is where I roll around on the floor.
Nice.
You know, but like most of the time, yeah, you send like, I make these like really obnoxious things where it's just like, this is how everything is routed. We don't need DIs. I have DIs built into my rack mount. We don't all this stuff. And then like you get there and it's just like, what do you have? God damn it.
Yeah, I apologize if I come across as a jerk or a douche. I
feel you.
This is
like I'm with you.
I don't feel like we're on a podcast right now. Like this is legitimately like a conversation from my soul, and it's so nice. I rarely talk about like these aspects of Kahone. Like I do the music and like I like joke around, like make TikToks and stuff. But like at my core, I want to be like a really respected musician. I want to be the kind of person that like someone comes to my show, I'll be like, they're playing the backing tracks. This guy sucks. We sit down, they come over and maybe we record. They're like, holy crap, like you know your stuff. And it's like, because I like live and breathe this shit like 24/7. I love doing it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most people don't care about those aspects. They're like, oh, this song sounds nice, which is cool. But to meet someone that like knows the struggle of exactly what you just said, it is so exciting. And like,
totally, yeah.
I could talk about it for years. So
yeah.
like, I know it probably comes across like I'm unfriendly or whatever, and I apologize.
No,
but like,
I think that it's we're just being real. We're talking that real shit right now. I think that so you know, 2 things are gonna happen. 2 things hopefully will happen from this conversation. One of them is that, you know, we'll both walk out of this with like a little bit of like a reinvigorated sense of not feeling so crazy, because like I don't, you know, there's a couple people that I know that like do like the silly production stuff like we do that are in the city too, and I have like good conversations with them. One of them is also happens to be a very good sound guy in Pittsburgh, so shout outs to Ben from Action Camp. I don't know if if you've seen him, maybe he's done sound for, he does sometimes sound at Club Cafe, Mr. Small's, Brillo Box.
Okay, cool. I'm sure I run into him.
You know, his band.
Wait, does he ever do Spirit?
I don't think, but it's possible.
I remember working with a Ben, because I'm Ben, so I remember that. I feel like I know this guy.
But super good dude. Band Action Camp is fun, and they do like live projections and all kinds of crazy MIDI stuff live and things like that. So it's fun whenever we play a show if he's running sound, because he understands like we got them all. He knows how all that stuff goes, and he is like really, really good about that stuff. But anyways, so maybe we'll feel a little less crazy.
Yeah.
And then also 2, maybe down the road, we can book a show together and ruin everyone's day.
Oh yeah.
Or it'll just be like a fun, big production.
Yeah. Honestly, like I I swear I'm not uptight all the time. It really depends on the context of like, if it's a show where like it needs to be like uptight and like well kept and like move like this, then I'm gonna act like that. But if it's a show where it's like, dude, let's just make as much noise as possible and have fun and just jam out, then yeah, like all cards off the table. Let's do whatever. Like if we need to get crazy and let's like splice together cables on the spot and just like, or like even like ditch the in-ears and just have tracks playing, just guess. Like I'm cool to do that. Like, you know what I mean? It just,
it's like over time, it's like, I mean, just recently I had like a fucking nightmare scenario at another venue with Normal Creatures because of basically what we were talking about, where a lot of cards were stacked against us, where we were supposed to play that show with a live drummer. Last minute, we weren't playing that show with a live drummer.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I set up our backtracks is so much different. So that if we have a drummer or not, if we don't have a drummer, we'll like route extra outputs and bring extra speakers for the drum, like all this chaos stuff. And basically I just didn't have enough time to do it right. And then when I got to the venue, not only did I not have enough time to do it right, the venue was also one of those situations where it's like, how many outputs are you trying to give me? And it's like, okay, like shit. So now there's like all this stuff compacting and we're not playing last. We're not, we're in between bands. Yeah. It's one of those shows where maybe there was one too many bands to begin with on the bill. So people were already a little ornery. And like, it was just like a train wreck of like trying to figure out like, I had forgot how I had rerouted stuff through the touch mix for the backtrack drums. And then I'm trying to like reroute stuff in the fucking DAW when I should have been rerouting it through the aux outputs on them. Just like all the, my brain
standing there like this.
Kind of to some degree. You know what I mean? Just like, and it's like, I don't fucking blame them. I'm just
true. Yeah.
I look like a fucking clown right now.
I've been in that situation.
You got a whole fucking room full of people staring at you.
You got to realize when you're the problem. Yeah, and I've definitely been the problem.
God damn it. So, we had a show the next fucking day in goddamn Youngstown, Ohio. So I ended up staying up like all night fixing everything. And then the next show was fine. Worked out good. And now we have a drummer again. So
God bless.
Great. But it was just a weird learning curve. And it's like, even after, God, like well over 15 years of doing this shit, probably 10 years with like all the stupid backtracks and things like that, I still come across idiot things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like it never ends.
Yeah, you're always going to learn, and there's you're going to think you found the greatest and like the last solution that you're ever going to need for a problem. And then 3 months later, you're gonna be like, shit, I think this is going to do a better job. You swap it out. And then because you freaking zip tied everything together to make your rack super nice, and you got to clip out all the zip ties, re-get it all perfect. And then you're like, okay, this is the last time I'm fucking around with this.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, you do the same thing. And you're like, shit. Yeah, it's never ending, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm kind of on a, right now with the band, for our next few shows that we have coming up, I'm on like a production ban. I've told myself it's like music only for the next few shows. We got to just do some shows. We're a fucking band. Just play the fucking songs. We're not headlining any of these shows. We're playing new songs that people don't really even fucking know.
Yep.
We got a new drummer that just started playing with us like a month or two ago. Let's just keep it easy. And then if we can get a couple shows done where it's cool, no issues, maybe I'll bring the lights back.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring the projector back.
That's something I struggle with, and I want to make sure that like I try to keep aware of myself, because at the end of the day, no one cares who programmed the lights or who knows how to work Ableton or who knows how to patch the cables. They show up and they're like, that guy on stage is singing these songs, that band's playing. That's all that they care about. They don't care about what you did.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
I'm still in a position where it's like most of the people like don't even realize that I like write a lot of my music. Like I still to this day will play solo shows and people are like, oh, like that's cool. Like who makes your beats?
Yeah, it's
me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you
think
this is?
Yep.
But I guess I can't blame them. So of course they're not going to be thinking about like, oh, did you program all those lights? Did you make all those fucking visuals?
So at the end of the day, if all that's stripped away,
tough,
you got to make sure that you're solid. So like, if I certainly don't want to reach the point where I'm so reliant on all these gimmicks and like extra things that I can't handle a show on my own. Like, a way like I think about it is there's a lot of bands that like maybe I'll watch and I'm like, I've never seen this band do a radio performance. I'm like, in the recordings, like they sound good and I can like, their live shows are cool. There's a lot going on, but like, I want to know what this dude sounds like if you give him a mic with no reverb, no EQ, and a DI acoustic guitar. Like, what does it sound like? You know what I mean? And I think there's just a lot of bands or musicians that like aren't able to pass that test per se.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
It's the Instagram filterification
Yeah,
of live
yeah.
music to some degree.
Yeah. So I think it's important while I do all these things to make sure that I'm like still practicing at a core, like what it matters, which is the music. So like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it, at the end of the day, it's like I am a musician.
Yeah.
We are a band.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this is Normal Creatures. This is not Wicked,
mm-hmm.
which would be sick. Wicked's cool. Don't know if you ever seen it. It's a great production.
Never
Highly
seen it.
recommended.
My sister used to read the book, so I know all the songs.
Yeah, highly recommended. It's fucking insane, especially if you're like a production person. Like
Mhm.
I always thought Broadway would be cool. My girlfriend like grew up in Broadway a little bit, going to a lot of shows, sung a bit, and was
Cool.
kind of like in that world. So like we've gone to a few things. Saw like Phantom of the Opera, fucking sick. Saw Fiddler on the Roof. It was fun, fine. Wicked was insane.
If I ever have the opportunity, I'll check it out.
Especially like just like thinking about like I think that you would like it a lot just from like all of like the timed everything, the lights and the visual stuff and all the practical effects and
Mhm.
stuff. It's just like it's crazy. And it's like they do this like, you know, multiple times a day,
Yeah.
multiple times a week. And it's like how? It's intimidating. Very
Yeah.
wicked.
That-
Recommended.
Yeah, I'll check it out. That's something I try to do is be aware of, even though something might not be my cup of tea. I try to do things out of my comfort zone sometimes because like I might go to that Wicked show and be like, holy crap, that's something that I could incorporate. Or
Yeah.
like a lot of the times when you're working on music, at least for me, I'm alone. And so like I don't have much pushback. And so my only perspective is my own.
Yeah.
And so like I think it's important to get out of that and get some like outside opinions maybe, or like just observe.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel
So
like
I think that'd be a good experience going to see Wicked.
the best thing that I've ever done for like any of my art has like pretty much been like getting other people involved in it. It's huge. It's so easy to be like selfish with ideas and have
Mhm.
too many ideas, and it's just like, you know, every once in a while there's those things that I'm like, I don't care what you say, that's the right thing.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
usually I end up changing my tune down the road.
Yep.
You know,
We're all guilty of it. And I know for a fact I have a song that I put out that someone said something to me and I completely disagreed with them. It was Caleb. And I'm like, I thought to myself, I'm like, it's my best friend. I respect his opinion more than anyone else. If that dude says something, I do it. And so this is the first time I did it. I'm like, whatever. I'll just do what he says. I'll put it out. And if I regret it, I'd be like, it wasn't my fault, even though it was, you know, ultimately.
Yeah.
But I did it and I'm like, wow, you were right. I'm like, that was the right call. And ever since then, that dude has an opinion. I'm like, this is going to hold a lot of weight.
yeah.
Yeah, working with people, and it brings something out of you that wouldn't normally happen. So like, have you ever been in a room with someone maybe playing a guitar or like co-writing and they play a progression that like in your head feels familiar, but like you never would have really played it. And then you automatically hear a melody and then you think you're going to go with that melody and then they start singing something and then you change it up and then you think of another melody and you're like, well, like getting pushback from like other people, it brings something out of you that like you would have never tried on your own. And then collectively, like I don't know. There's something weird going on in the universe, and I think music has a lot to do with it.
Sure. I mean, you know, it's salt and pepper, it's macaroni and cheese, peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes things that are great on their own come together and it's just magic, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, but you know, sometimes, yeah, it's like you eat that burger and it tastes real good in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then an hour later, you got heartburn. You're not feeling so good.
Yeah.
That's how sometimes
Yeah.
some of the shit I've written feels like. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's not digesting as well as I
Mhm.
thought it would.
Oh, yeah.
Great in the moment.
I have hundreds of voice memos like that where I'm like, I can't wait 3 weeks from now when I find this voice memo. I'm like, that's great.
Uh-huh.
I listen back and I'm like, sounds like a pig dying, and it's like this obscure, like unusable noise. But I mean, you gotta do those things to get to the things that maybe might resonate a little more.
Sure. Absolutely. You don't, if everything could work all the time, everything would be like so much easier. Sometimes I really beat myself up over like all of the things that I haven't finished. And like, but by nature of being an artist, there's always so much that's unfinished versus what gets finished. And I guess that's kind of what makes the finished art special, is like, this is the stuff that really made it to that point where it's like, oh, this is like a great idea. You know, you have some people that will just like release every single thing, or it seems like they release every single thing that they thought of. And like, at the end of the day, it's like, is this like a great artistic statement, or are you like sharing too much with the world? You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Taylor Swift releasing 31 songs.
Yeah.
It's a lot of material. I'm not going to say all of it's good or all of it's bad, but 31 songs, I think that's too much for anybody to release at one point in time. It just seems crazy to me. She's not the first person to do that, though.
Yeah,
a lot of people have done stuff like that. It's just like, was there more than that? Like, did you write 90 songs and cut them down to 31? Or did you just have 31 ideas and say, fuck it, here's all of them?
I hear you. And I agree.
Know.
So like, with someone starting out, I think writing 30 songs and just putting it out, I think that's a great idea, because a lot of people get caught up on that this needs to be perfect, and they think that like every song they write is going to be like their magnus opus or whatever it's called. And so they spend all their time and energy on that, because like, I know for me starting out, I'm like, okay, this chord progression, I love it. I want to make the best of it. And then like, you think that you're never going to write something as good as that, or you want to make sure that's perfect. Just get it out, finish it, move on to the next one. Because if you think that idea is going to be your best one and your only good one, you're like going down the wrong path.
Sure.
So I think that's how you get better. And a lot of people struggle with completing things. So I think you should see it through. Doesn't mean you need to release them all out to the public. Maybe not. I don't know. Now, you raise a very good point with the Taylor Swift album. One thing that is, my fiance is a huge Swiftie. I don't like the new album. She will not. She's like, I don't care. I don't want to hear anything I have to say about it. Like, she's ride or die Taylor Swift.
Sure.
But I totally agree with you. Most artists, like big label artists like that, they'll probably write like 90 songs or have 90 songs and sift through the best like 9 to 12. And in this case, that's a good point. Was there 90, or was this all of them and they just didn't sift through? So yeah, like, I think it's a testament that like everyone writes some songs that aren't going to be their best.
Yeah.
But like, when you're at that level, maybe
it's interesting, you know, it's like hard to say for like Taylor Swift or any artist, but like the impression that I get just as like a listener, when I'm like in my head, if somebody releases an album of material, I at least go into that with the hope that the artist has the same amount of confidence behind every single one of these tracks to release it as a full body of work. I mean, sure, there might be the single, the standout songs, but at a base level, everything is at like a good enough level where this deserves to be a full body of work. But like the level of like ego, and I guess somebody like Taylor Swift is more than deserving to have the ego. I like a whole lot of her music. I like a lot of the stuff that's on that new album.
Midnight's was a great album.
You know, I think there's a solid dozen tracks on the new album. But to be like, here's 30 songs of material that is worth your time at a base level, just seems insane to me. It just seems insane. Yeah, especially coming from an artist that just released like Midnight's a couple years ago. It's not like this is like some like, oh, you know, I've been away for half a decade and here's like, you know, 6-7 years worth of work, worth of writing, you know? It's like, who knows? These songs could have been kicking around pre-Midnights, posts.
Mhm.
Some of that stuff sounds like it could be from like a Folklore, Evermore era stuff or whatever. Like, I get it. Who knows when you decide to release something? But, not just like to keep talking about Taylor Swift, just artists in general. Other artists have done this, Drake, Morgan Wallen, just a couple people to put out there that have released like 30, 40 song double albums recently that are like very popular artists. That's a lot of material, and there's no way that it's all at the level. I think it's just Spotify stream gaming, to be completely honest with you.
I agree with what you're saying here, and it's a really interesting perspective I've never really thought about. Yeah, I think that if they're going to put something out, they should stand behind every song, and maybe they do stand behind these 30-some songs.
Totally. Yeah, who are we to say that?
But I can understand how you feel like they probably don't. And I think a solution to it would be drop the 9 to 12 songs that are the best off there, and then drop something fan-oriented to where the people that are going to want to like dig into that stuff and learn about it can find it.
I guess to be fair, the Taylor Swift album technically is like only like 16 tracks. And then
That's
there's
still
like
a lot.
Then there's like I forget what it's called. And I should know what it's called, but it's like it's the
Extended
collection extended. I forget the exact terminology of it. So there is technically 2 versions of the album, and one is just like, the good tracks. Then the other one's, I guess, not being sold as B-sides, but it is like B-sides. But it was still like, it was all released the same day.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, pretty much being sold as like, it's being advertised as like a secret double album and not like a collection of bonus tracks. So it's being sold as that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a marketing thing.
Yeah, you're right. There's no branding, way it's hurting her streams by any means.
No. Branding and marketing for artists now, especially at that level, it's just gotten so
tricky.
It's like artists at that level can like be like, here's, even like, this isn't like a Taylor Swift thing. Like Justin Bieber had like what was his most recent album, Justice. There's like 3 different versions of that. There's like the normal version, then there's like an extended one that has a couple bonus tracks, and then there's another one that has those couple bonus tracks plus a couple more. So it's like people keep like digitally re-releasing albums with bonus tracks,
sped up, slow down
and
versions,
like there's like all this stuff, and like but then like you could buy like all the different versions of it at Target and things like that if you collect stuff, or
different colored vinyl presses.
Yeah, there's like all this just like it's so much. And like being like a person by yourself just trying to put out your music and get like a couple people to care about it. It's so funny. Like I can't even fathom the idea of being like, oh, like me like releasing 10 songs and getting people to listen to it seems like cool. Great. Me being like, oh, I'm going to release like 3 different versions of like 24 songs, 3 songs, and I'm going to release it on like 24 different variants and have store exclusives. That's crazy. But I guess if you could do it, you could do it. My brain just, obviously that's when you get to the level of you got like a team of people working for you. And
exactly.
You're not even like making your own decisions anymore at that point for the most part, I'd imagine, for some of these artists.
To be able to do an album that quick of like 32 songs, like I wouldn't be able to do that because I love producing and recording on my own. But like if I had someone where I'm like, hey, I have this idea here, let's take it to the finish line. Can you like come up with something? Then I think it's a little more doable. But I'm not saying it's the right or wrong thing. I don't have the answers. I don't know. Like I said,
there's a lot of people that are very happy about getting all this material. And at the end of the day, the most important thing about releasing your art is releasing it for the people that want it. So people are getting something good out of it. Fucking great.
Yeah.
Cool. It's just like that, like artist in me and like seeing like the way other people release stuff at like a very high level, which is not a level where me or you operate at all. But still, you kind of like always look to like what is happening at the highest scale. And to some degree, you want to learn from that, whether that you learn that that's what you want to do or what you don't want to do. as an artist.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting where it's just like, I'm going to be releasing an album sometime soon in the middle of recording it. And there's like, how should I do this? You had a very interesting approach to recording songs and releasing an album. We could actually talk about that, I suppose, to talk about you and your creativity outside of the fucking cynicism, negativity hole that we've been in. But I feel, I feel it.
I say this a lot. I'm a music fan before I'm a music maker. And all these opinions that I have aren't coming from me as a music maker a lot of the time. It's because it's so fun to me to analyze these things. I'm a fan of music. I'm a fan of what Taylor Swift is doing. Whether or not I like the music, like, it is so interesting to dissect this stuff and talk about. I'm not saying these things because I think I have better ideas or I can do it better. It's just because it's like, it's just everything about music. Whether it's talking about like, why are they putting out these different versions? What's the marketing? Like, as a music fan, that is so interesting to me. You know what I mean? So like, I don't feel bad about, maybe it comes across like we're bashing, but in my mind, even with my music, if someone doesn't like my music, I don't get offended because like there's songs I don't like. It has nothing to do with talent or skill. It's just like, it's liking things is just as important as disliking things. It's all part of the experience of being a music listener.
Yeah.
And so like, I think that even like those kinds of opinions should be celebrated and not like thought of it like, wow, these people are stuck up and they like two guys that aren't even half as popular as Taylor Swift. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, it's just interesting, like thinking about, like the more that I'm just thinking about this whole concept of like the multiple versions and the extended versions of albums, like I think about like, back in the day, you have like The Matrix on DVD and it has the bonus features, which is just like a collection of things that happen to be acquired, deleted scenes or things like that. And then, a bonus track on an album wasn't unheard of. Like, oh, here's like the original studio demo or like the acoustic version or the live version, like normal things, right? Like just bonus stuff, bonus tracks.
Green Day,
extra things.
Dookie has the ones, I don't know what it's called, but it's like, I was alone, there was nobody home, all my room, all by myself. The like very end of a song, it's not even like listed on the album, I don't think. But the album, it's like 3 minutes of
like
silence.
The hidden track.
Yeah.
So all that kind of stuff. But now there's a part of me that feels like artists are like, because like there's like a game and like releasing multiple editions, it's almost like I'm intentionally creating bonus material instead of it just existing. It makes me feel like artists are intentionally doing this just to meet the quota to have like multiple editions of a record. It feels very like, is this a creative decision or is this a business decision?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And it's okay to be business minded in your music. I'm not going to knock anybody for that.
You have to be, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like there's the music lover in me that has a hard time engaging with something that I feel may have potentially been manufactured without any real artistic intent.
Yeah.
And more just to meet a quota.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess that's a lot of popular music for some people that are in a contracted agreement to create art professionally. I guess it is a quota in a lot of ways.
Dude, there's so many facets to it, and there's a lot of facets that we probably don't even know about because we're not at the level of people are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everything you said is valid, and we could talk about this for like 10 more years. It's just exciting. Like we both love music and love talking about music. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent.
Well, it's a podcast. That's kind of how this goes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, true.
That's usually a podcast with no tangent is a bad podcast.
Okay, cool.
So we're solid.
Then
But we should talk about your release and how all of the material came together because it's a cool, unique, genuine approach, I feel, to creating music as an independent creator in the modern times in 2024.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, drop the knowledge on them. What did you do?
Thank you very much. One more tangent. You mentioned different versions of DVDs and stuff. One thing that I miss very much, they don't do it anymore, is menu screens of DVDs. It used to be so fun. Yeah. Like I remember Scooby-Doo. Like they had like the claw machine. Some had games built into it and stuff. Nowadays you don't have that anymore because like it's just something to reminisce about. But I just want to throw that out there. The thought popped in my mind. You're a movie fan. I'm sure you could relate.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But yeah. So I started Kahone Concept in like 2015. I've been doing music my whole life, but publicly just went for it in like 2015 and told people that like I sing. I was terrified of someone hearing me sing in 2015. And then so I made recordings, and if it would get played in front of me, I'd have to like leave because I'd feel so uncomfortable. Now I don't care anymore. But what was I going to say again? What were we talking about?
We're talking about your releasing of music now.
Yeah.
But
okay,
we're getting into the origins.
Yeah.
We're getting into the Spider-Man Bite story here. So
the reason why I bring this up is because for the past, since 2015, it's 2024, like 7-8 years, to me, this is a result of all that. So like a lot of people will drop an album or have a release show, and you're celebrating the album, of course. But for me, I've always wanted to put out an album, but I wanted to do it at a professional seeming level. Like I wanted the tracks to sound like I went and paid however much money to get it done with a professional. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jack Antonoff.
Yeah. Like I didn't want to wait to be discovered or like for the timing to be right. Cause that would like, you'll wait your whole life for stuff.
Sure.
So I wanted to practice and make sure that I got to a level that I felt confident in. And so I put out releases before this and EPs and stuff. And as a producer, I finally felt like I was at the level where I'm like, I think this can compete with what you hear on the radio. So I said, screw it. I'm going to do an album. And then to hold myself accountable, because like 2020 is when I think I started first putting out songs that like, I was like, okay, the productions are kind of cool on this. Like, because I went to a studio and I didn't have the best experience. Nothing wrong with the studio. They did great. I just realized I wanted to be the nerd behind the computer.
Sure.
And so once I realized that, I didn't have that excuse that like, well, I'm just a guy in his bedroom. Like, it's not going to sound as good as those guys because like I don't have the stuff. I said, don't think like that anymore. There's no excuse. The tools are here. You can go on Facebook Marketplace, buy an Apollo Twin Duo for like $300.
Oh yeah.
And like Beer Bongs and Bentleys by Post Malone. That's the audio interface they used on that album. Like,
oh yeah, you ever watch any of those documentaries with fucking Billie Eilish and her brother talking about like recording that shit in their bedroom?
Exactly.
Her just sitting cross-legged on the bed.
Yep. Not in an untreated room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, if I think like that, like, well, I'm not gonna, then like, I'm never gonna get where I want to be. So I stopped like letting myself think like, if only I had this, I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. And so 2020 came along, released the 4 songs, and then I felt like, wow, over this year I put out 4 songs, and I feel like I spent 3 months getting hype over one song. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm capable of more than this. Like, and I stopped doing the whole like magnum opus thing, and I'm like, as a musician, I feel like you can relate as well. Like, I don't have anything out that I think shows like 20% of what I think I'm capable of.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like there's like that drive in there. So I'm like, the only way that I'm going to be able to do that is if I show up and I practice, and I'm like, I'm going to do a song a month and write, record, and release a song a month for a year. And I was on WYEP, and that was in order to hold myself accountable. Like I said, I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm a nobody. Most people don't care about me. But to say something publicly, whether or not people heard it, I don't know. But to me, it felt like set in stone. I went on there and then I said it, and I'm like, wearing it now. So I did a song a month for a year. And then over like this year, I really honed in on what I mentioned earlier with like the branding and like finding like what I want Kahone to be. And decided to collect it all into an album. Now, what I was going to do was I was going to cut it down. I was going to do 12 songs, a song a month, cut it down to 9. That way it was like my 9 best. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? It feels more artistic and authentic to me to do all 12 on the album and release it at once, because that way it's at my core, this is the music I can make. If I gave myself a month, it wasn't like I went through and like sorted through all kinds of stuff. It was like, okay, this month I'm doing a song, and I committed to it.
Yeah.
So like as a songwriter and producer, I kind of wanted it to be hold myself accountable and kind of just like lay it out there like, hey, at my core, this is what I can do. if maybe like if you give me more time, it might sound different. You might get better songs, but like as a baseline, like this is what Kahone is.
It's like a reflection of where you are creatively, personally, emotionally, mentally in that time frame.
Yeah.
So a question that I have for you regarding the album, the sequence, are you keeping it in sequence that you wrote them? Or are you mixing up the sequence of songs from how they were released on like this album?
That's a fantastic question. So I feel really guilty because the album, there's not going to be new songs on the album.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say this but like for the people that keep up with what I'm doing, I feel bad because I want to be able to give them something worthwhile, like something extra, but more people haven't heard my music than have. So most people, this album's going to be brand new, songs never heard.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like I'm leaving out the supporters that have been there. But what I did do is I have the set list of the album, the track list is a special order that I'm not going to say. That way for the people that do listen to what I do and are involved, like it'll be something to figure out because it technically is a concept album on a couple different levels. One, literally Kahone Concept is the name.
Totally.
Two, the second concept is that I wrote and recorded a song a month. Like most of the songs didn't exist before that month. I think one did. It was a mashup of like 2 old ideas. And so there's that idea. And then 3, the order is the third concept. There's kind of a theme of the album that it starts off as something and then it ends as something. And it's supposed to represent something about myself. So that is, that's the day the album comes out that's going to be kind of like the hopefully fun aspect for the people that have been supporting. And then we called it the greatest hits just because it's hilarious that a debut album to me is the greatest hits. It's a lot like pizza places. Every single pizza place in town has a sign in the window that says best pizza or number 1 pizza. There's not a dude
or
in
like
a suit.
What was it? Best coffee in Elf.
Yeah, exactly.
You did it.
So like there's not a dude in a suit with a badge going around verifying. You can say whatever you want. So the greatest hits. Do I think they're the greatest hits for me? Heck yeah, I like them. They're fun.
Yeah.
Like one goal of mine when recording was not all the tracks are like this because I wanted to make a couple slower ones. But my goal was I wanted to be able to play it like as a wedding because I DJ weddings sometimes. And so like if I could put a song on and not kill the dance floor, then I'm like, because there's one thing people love and it's Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
So like I have like a song called Kung Fu Kahone and Shut Up and Let It Go that are a little more like disco-y funk. And like during like the breakdown parts of those, like to me, I can envision like a crowd of people at a wedding having no idea what the song is, but still being up, like not getting up and leaving because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of the songs I tried to kind of write with that in mind. Then there's a few in there that are slower.
That's great. I think that it's a big accomplishment. So congrats.
Thanks, man.
I know that it takes just a lot of persistence, patience and persistence to get material out there enough to write an album. But when you're like putting yourself on a deadline, there's really no space for patience.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, you kind of have to push yourself to get shit out there.
For sure. And as much as I'd like to say that this is like my full-time thing, like I have a real job. I'm a developer. Like I code and stuff. And like that's 40 hours a week minimum. So like I'm doing all this stuff on top of that. And whenever you involve other aspects of life, like it does get hard. And there are some times where you're like, there's no way I'm going to meet this deadline. But then part of the fun was like kind of telling yourself, well, how much does it mean to you? Like, does going out this weekend mean more?
Oh,
you know what I mean? And then it's like, it's a fun little thing, like challenge for myself as well.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I take my hoodie off? I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
This is my funky lamp hoodie.
Yeah, you're good. We'll go to me and I'll just keep talking to you. They won't even know you're changing. Oh. Besides the fact that I told them.
Well, I was giving a shout out to Funky Lamp. Do you know who Funky Lamp is?
No, I don't.
They're a local band.
Here, it's another episode of the podcast where I'm hearing about a local band that I've never fucking heard of.
Still a little warm. Oh, got Caleb Cope to here. He's a local musician.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Got Melt.
This is fun. we have like six shirts on.
Oh yeah. Another cheetah. There was another cheetah. Oh, I can't show these guys. They didn't pay me.
Okay.
I'm kidding. We got Old Neon. Oh, Dream the Heavy. Those guys were on here. Oh, this was my Oakland Indie Fest from last summer. Yeah. So all kinds of.
This is so fucking funny. I can't believe you've been sitting there with all this shit.
And then we got Bradley.
Oh, wow.
Did a show with them and another Cheetah. And then last we got just me.
Oh, okay.
But you had to. Sorry, I was getting warm there. I've got to rep the locals, man.
That was awesome.
If you're in a band in Pittsburgh, go to other local shows, even if they're people you don't know, because you're just as much of the person that you want at your own gig as you are for other people.
Yeah.
Just show up and you'll find so much stuff you hate, so much stuff you like, so much stuff that's intriguing. So go to a show, and the shirts are so cheap. They're like $10 to $20.
Yeah.
Get a shirt.
Yeah, I think that one of the best things that you can do as a musician trying to come up and find your voice, find who you want to be as a performer, is to go to other shows and legit treat it like fucking class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take lessons. Like, there's something to be learned from really, really great bands, and there's even more to be learned from really, really bad bands.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I hope it's somebody, that show that I played where my shit was all fucked up and I couldn't in the moment get it all figured out. I hope somebody saw that and was like, oh, I need to reconfigure my fucking computer setup before I try to take it to a show like that idiot did.
Or maybe there's something you do on stage that you think's the bee's knees. You think you're so cool for doing it. You go and see another band do it. You're like, I got to stop doing that. You're like, that was terrible. That was the cringiest thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is class. Like, and it makes it fun too.
I've had that. I've had plenty of experiences where I've seen other bands. I've seen myself in not good ways in other performers. And it's like, oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
for sure.
But talking about your album and the way that you came about it, I like that it feels like you're doing something that I think is really important for artists at our level to do. And that's treating the internet and the real world like two different things, because they are. I think a lot of people think it's all the same. They think that everybody that likes their stuff online is going to come to their fucking shows. And it's like, it doesn't operate like that for people like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might play a fucking sick show, like a sick house show in Oakland or something, to fucking, 100 really excited fucking kids that are going to like your stuff. They might buy a shirt or something like that, but they're never going to fucking like you on Instagram. They might. I don't know, but the worlds are different.
They are. They really are.
I have fucking people that live in Pittsburgh that like my shit all the fucking time, and I never see them at a fucking show. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those options. I'm happy to have both.
Yeah.
But very rarely do those worlds intersect for people at our level.
So that is something that I think about a lot. And they are very different, because the people that are already going to the shows, they're there for one reason, and it's because the music. You know what I mean? Most of the time, they're there because of the music. And then the internet world, you can't just go online anymore and say, hey, new song out now. People, that's an immediate scroll. But what you can do is, whether this is what a lot of people struggle with, you have to present yourself and just kind of make your voice known online, and your music is a byproduct. So like, say I have a video where I'm talking about maybe my thrift finds for the day, and in the background I put my song. I don't mention my song in the description or like make a big deal about it, but then people come along, and then some people might be like, hey, what's that song? Not saying that I don't post my music the opposite way, because I do both. But what I realize is people online are more interested than you a lot of the times than your music. And so if you can cross that line of getting them from being interested in you and your content to being interested in your music, that's when you're able to get them to shows. And so that's why I think online is such a useful tool of kind of getting yourself in front of people. But then you got to be able to you got to sell yourself, but then have a good product that, like, you know what I mean? Sure.
It's like you're here, you're there, you're here. These aren't even fucking. This is my first podcast. I'm sorry. I've never talked to anybody in person before in my life, apparently. It's like your song is like the watch that you're hoping that somebody might notice.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're just out and about. It's like the accessory to your whole like personality in some cases.
Yeah, because in the elevator, I saw your watch. I'm like, that's a really cool watch. And then you didn't like initiate it, but then you might be like, heck yeah, man! Like I actually make watches. You should check out my website sometime. There's all kinds of cool designs, and then maybe you might like tell me about this one design, but like you're not telling me to go buy one. And then I go home and then I look on my own. I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I end up buying a watch from. You know what I mean? That's kind of the idea, because in a world where everything's a freaking ad, like the last thing people want is to be sold at another thing. Money's tight for everyone. It's such bullshit how expensive everything is. Like, that's a whole nother topic, but like people don't want to feel like you're just another thing trying to suck the money out of them, right?
Yeah.
So, and at the same time, there's also the problem of like art not being free, and like it should be like we should be compensated, because like you can't eat off of just like, oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? So like there's that's another conversation as well. But for people that are online, they don't want to feel like they're being sold something. You got to make it feel like they found it and they discovered something, and you provide them value. And then the hope is that in return, there's someone that sticks around, and then maybe there's someone that shows up to a show and buys a shirt, or maybe there's someone that tells their friends about you, or you know what I mean?
Totally.
So at least in today's world, that's kind of my approach to it.
Yeah, you know, there's no right way or wrong way to do something. There's so many different options, especially like when you start getting into the nuance of like, what kind of music do I make? What kind of fan base am I attracting? You know, I play in 2 different bands right now primarily, and they're very different bands with very different target demographics. You know what I mean? And like,
I listen. They are very, very different.
And it's interesting when you like in the real world, well, hey, it's like, you know, you just play shows with bands that are kind of in a similar world, or maybe sometimes not, but people that go to live shows that just want to see live music, you put on a good show and hopefully they'll like it. It's simple.
Yep.
That's not as many tricks as it comes to when you're online. And it's like when you're online and like, you know, trying to be like a heavy metal band, you know, a bunch of dudes in your 30s, it's like, okay, well, you know, we're not out here trying to like, you know, be cool for like teenagers. Not that we don't want teenagers to listen to our music, but it's like, what do we do? You know,
for sure.
How do you, what is the personality of this band? You know, we're just like a heavy metal band.
Yep.
Guys goofing, you know, that's our thing. Whereas like with Normal Creatures, it's like something where it could be a little bit more like artistic and weird, because the music's a little bit more weird and doesn't really fit into a box. So that kind of stuff can, I think, exist a little bit easier in an online sphere, because I think that we can like market it in ways where it doesn't feel disingenuous to the product itself.
Yeah.
Whereas there's like some sort of like bullshit purity in the like heavy metal, at least from people that like listen to it, where it's like it's a lot easier to be like,
bro, you could be
fake or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm overanalyzing.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because I'm not a metal artist, but you could be the most heavy metal band in the world. And if you put hashtag metal or hashtag heavy metal, there's going to be one dude in the comments, this ain't metal.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Like, this ain't heavy. And it's like, but yeah, there's all, no matter what, there's going to be like all kinds of different views and opinions. And so, yeah, for your one band where it does seem like you can be a little more creative and you kind of have more of an idea of like what you can do, like that's certainly an avenue. But like for the metal, not that like you asked for an opinion, but I guess my thing of it is, if you said you guys are just dudes goofing around, like I would just film that it's the stupidest shit, even if it's you guys farting in a van.
Well, we've definitely leaned into being not like necessarily goofy, but I think like the thing that like a comment that we get a lot, it's usually some variation of like somebody will like talk to me after a show and they'll be like, I could tell you guys have a lot of fun together. Or I could tell you guys are good friends. And it's like very obvious, I think, like when we're playing shows that like, you know, that we take the musicianship seriously, but you know, we're not like all like tear each other apart, bang your heads. This song's about death. You know what I mean? Like I'm fucking like, you know, somebody's tuning a guitar and I'm telling like some stupid knock joke or just cutting up with somebody. And like, you know, like we're just like, It's a
Vibing.
little lighthearted vibe and
Yeah.
just like, and I think we've kind of gotten known for that. You know, it's still interesting because I think if we put out music or anything like that, there's still like some like reasonably serious art to it. If we make a video, it might not be silly, but we did like a really silly video with like a bunch of aliens and stuff once. So, but you know, I don't know. We definitely are just kind of leaning into being ourselves
Yeah.
when it comes to that band, and it's fine. You know, I think it works good for us. I think that we have like a decent, I think we have like, we can like put stuff out online. We don't post all the time. You know, we never do like the been jamming us recently. What's your favorite song?
Mhm.
We don't do the in the studio, big things coming soon. You know, we don't do any of that. It's like, of course, that's what bands do.
Yep.
You know, where it's just like, here's a flyer for a show, come to it. Here's a music video we made. We played a show and somebody filmed a song. Here it is. You know, like just very like direct.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong
Here
with
is
that.
things.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like this bigger sort of I don't know. I see again, it's like, who am I to say how like anybody should or shouldn't try to market their art
Oh, absolutely.
to anybody? You know, different things work for different people. It's just funny when I see stuff like I don't know. Do you remember? I don't see it so much, but you remember the era of the like, if this gets 100 likes, we'll drop a clip from a new song. And it's just like, I mean, I don't know, I guess cool, but also stop.
Dude.
Or like bands that would like just post like memes that aren't even theirs just for like generic engagement.
Yeah.
It's like, that's so cheap.
Dude, none of it matters. And how I know that is because I would be willing to bet I have watched more music marketing gurus than 99% of the people. So if you're an independent musician, you've probably heard of Damian Keys or Burstamo. They're on YouTube. They're both like marketing strategist people. I've literally watched every single video they've released. Damian Keys, I capped it off at like 2018. I think he had older stuff. But like I watched every single video, like up to date, like, and I know that's like, and I followed a lot of the stuff. Not to say it's bad advice because it's not, but there's no one right way to do things. So like, I think the best thing to do is just be yourself and not overthink it. And that's also the hardest thing to do. So like, me not being where I think I want to be, I don't think is because I didn't use the right hashtag or because I didn't post this certain behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I just got to always keep learning and practice and get better and be the best that I can be. And then whatever's meant to be is meant to be. Because I've noticed that when I try to like have control over it or have expectations, I don't enjoy what I'm doing as much. And like it's a dark rabbit hole.
Oh, totally.
You know?
I've been there. I've been there plenty of fucking times. I think that I try to think about like nowadays when I was the happiest making music. And it's so funny. I feel like I was the happiest and somehow the most productive before I like knew how the sausage was made. You know, like I was working 3 fucking jobs. I couldn't get a show. I didn't know anybody. My mixes were shit. It didn't fucking matter. I was just making stuff that made me happy. And now it's like I have to overanalyze everything. And it's like I just need to stop that.
Yeah, it's
You
hard.
know,
It's
I
hard,
just gotta
man.
stop that. like it's like if I could get to a point, it's like I get so worried about like, oh, like is the compression on these vocals good? Is this art good? You know, what if is somebody gonna say something bad about it? And now it's just like, if I was at a point where somebody listened to my music hard enough to be like, your vocal compression is shit, I'd be like, thank you for listening to it.
You'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, so it's just like, give me something, you know? And like, it's so easy to just feel like invisible and like feel like, you know, it's like weird being like your own worst critic and also feeling like worthless. And it's like all this like, these are not good feelings. And it's just like, I need to just focus on, you know, I know that I have passion and I have like way more passion than a lot of other people I know in my life. And I shouldn't take that for granted. I just need to channel it in like a positive way.
Yeah.
And not let that passion turn into like anger or resentment or being like a cynic.
Yeah,
and
amen,
like,
man.
I mean, all that stuff's there. I mean, there's like a little peppers of that all throughout this
That's how-
conversation in some ways.
Some of those things are how you write good songs too.
Totally, you know,
Inspiration.
absolutely. But it's like trying to just push it in a way and like being just like, I don't know, following your bliss, not to like do like some sort of cliche thing, you know, but it's just like, I just like making music and I like playing shows. And I need to remember that.
Absolutely.
And like, if I'm so caught up in like all of this nuance of stuff where I can't even allow myself to enjoy the limited time that I get on a stage, then I'm fucking it up. Because like the only way you're gonna get big, it's kind of like people like finding like confidence attractive, and people kind of want to gravitate towards like a confident energy. Like if I'm playing a show and it's obvious I'm stressed out, it's obvious I'm not having fun, I'm not, you know, music's a conversation between you and the listener.
Yeah.
And if you're just ranting like kind of like some person that seems like their marbles may be a little scattered on the corner, just screaming at the sky, everybody's just kind of like gonna tiptoe around.
Yeah, bro.
I don't want to talk to that guy.
And I've seen it many times.
Yeah.
It's so awkward.
And I feel like I've been that guy.
Yeah.
You know, I just reality check.
Yeah. What's crazy to me is musicians, so many musicians have this weird ego. Like I've met great musicians, but like their ego like is really holding them back. And it's crazy because we all experience the same things. And then like having conversations like this, like I feel so good about, because it's so nice. Because it's like, yes, like we see each other, we hear each other. And it's weird that there's people that are able to like still kind of have that ego around it when it's something that like should be celebrated, like all these feelings, you know what I mean? But I think it's just because maybe it's because we work so hard, and sometimes we can get bitter that we don't feel like we're seen as much as we want to be. I don't know, but there's nothing I hate more than people that are jerks.
Totally. You know, it's ego, I think, is healthy in some doses. I think you need some sort of ego to want to like, not necessarily to create music, but to release it and expect people to engage with it. It requires a little bit of like okay, like I'm kind of cool. You should check this out.
Ego's not always a bad thing. There's there's like a spectrum of like,
but I think if you start putting yourself on like a pedestal above your peers, like that shit, like it's so silly. It's like, bro, we're all at Roboto. Who the fuck do you think you are right now? Like we're all here.
Even like successful musicians that do it for a living.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're just a guy or girl. You wrote a song in your bedroom. Like, big whoop, dude. You know what I mean?
I remember seeing a band, who was it? Fuck it, we'll keep names out of here. But it was a show at Roboto, and it was like a touring band, a big band. And to be fair, they probably shouldn't have been playing that room. But for whatever reason, that's how things shook out. You know, just like lack of venues, DIY. They're kind of like a mid-level band where I don't know, that they shouldn't have played anything bigger than like Cativo or something like that. But you know, like Roboto was a small venue for them. And like, you know, like that Roboto has gone through, I mean, they like, it's a rotating cast of people that staff there in terms of like sound and things like that. And this band was so fucking rude to the person that was running sound.
Wow.
And it's just like, you are a professional touring band. And like, I get that this isn't an ideal setup for you, but also it's like a 3-piece punk adjacent band, right? Guitar, bass, drums, vocals. There's a PA. It might feed back a little bit. It's punk rock. Shut up. You know, like stop giving like this person that's like obviously a volunteer at this DIY venue. There's a little, you know, just like being like cranky with them and just like, stop. It was like, it really turned me off from that band. I liked the band. I went to
You're there.
Go see this band. You know, I like followed them on Spotify. They were on my release radar. They still show up in my release radar, and I don't even listen to it anymore. Cause like the attitude like turned me off so much. Where it was just like, it just felt fake. Like, you know, like I thought this was like cool, fun punk rock. Like, when the fuck did we get all
I know
diva-y
exactly
about
what you
this?
mean. I did a show a couple years ago, and there was a lot of people. Like it was a show where like it wasn't a ticketed event, but there was a lot of people. And the sound guy was having a lot of trouble with the tracks to the point where like I could tell that like people's faces were like, this is like hurting my ears. And I was on stage and it was hurting my ears, and I have like in-ears in. So like if I can hear, I was gonna like cancel, like eject the backing tracks or whatever, abort the backing tracks, just because like I'm like, this is gonna hurt like my ears. So I did, and instead of like getting mad, I just told the sound guy, I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. I'm just gonna go acoustic and then play out the show. And then instead of like freaking out and like causing a big deal, did acoustic. And one, I maintain to this day the relationship with the sound guy. Like I didn't walk away from it with like bad feelings. That guy didn't walk away from you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it, even though like it wasn't ideal, like there's no need to cause a scene, and everyone there doesn't care whose fault it is. It just sounded bad and it needed fixed, and they just wanted to hear something. So I'm like, okay, let's do acoustic. You know what I mean?
That's definitely, and hey, thumbs up to you for being able to do that in the moment. I've definitely been the fucking person that's been like, fuck you, fuck this. In a situation, in like, it's always like a compounded thing though, like when that fucking thing happens, you know what I mean? Like I remember I helped set up a show in some art gallery downtown years ago where like, like I booked what I thought was like a really cool lineup of bands that I normally wouldn't get to play with. Just cause like I was fans of these bands and things like that. And like, like since it was an art gallery show, like I bought like kegs of beer and
cool.
like did all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to create this whole thing. And then like, like these other bands that I brought on, you could tell they didn't give a fuck about playing the show. People were talking shit like, oh, this beer's gross. Like the turnout wasn't fucking great. And then the person that was running it just became like this compound thing where it's like, it's finally time for us to play. No, it doesn't feel like anybody wants to be there. Why the fuck did I do all this work? Well, hopefully we could at least just fucking play a set. And then we start playing and it's like, a fucking nightmare. You can't hear the fucking tracks. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's why you shouldn't do too many things.
Yeah, that's valid.
And that's like the thing. It's like, I still to this day do it. I still am trying to, we talked about already, I'm still trying to be the fucking, every fucking thing, at once, because I've been burned by so many other people in situations where like, I can just do it myself.
Yeah, no one cares as much as you.
You can't do it all yourself. It's fucking impossible.
Yep. It definitely need to find the balance, and there's situations where you can and you can't. And that's something I got to learn. When me trying to do it all compromises, at the end of the day, like what matters the most is the music. My manager Adam's really good at like leveling me out and being like, don't worry about that. You need to either get someone to do it or just cut it out for now. And you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's nice to have someone there to kind of guide. But it's at the same time, it's so much fun learning random shit. Yeah. Like I'll watch some YouTube videos on like how to program DMX or like this new piece of equipment. Like it's part of my passion. To me, it's what makes Kahone Concept sound like Kahone Concept. But yeah, there's, like you said, there's certain times when you kind of gotta hand off the hat to someone and let them help you. Yeah. It's tough. It's like, I feel like I got so used to like making music by myself growing up in that world. And then I start meeting other musicians and collaborating with people, and this is great. And now I love collaborating with other people, but there's still those things that I'm like very precious about. You talked about like going into a studio situation and trying to record with somebody else, and it wasn't them being a bad producer, but it like didn't work out. I have the same issue where it's like, I love the idea of being able to go into a studio and have somebody like help me engineer things. Yeah. But also it's just like, I've never met anybody else whose brain works the way that I do when it comes to like workflow and how you should do things. And like, sometimes like I'll take like creative suggestions, but I still have a bit of too much of an ego when it comes to logistical suggestions in terms of like my recording workflow. And if I see somebody like stacking tracks in a weird way, I'm like, why are you doing this? It just bothers me. Yeah, and honestly, that's valid. I mean, it shouldn't matter, but I can totally see why. Like,
It's
Yeah, I agree. Like,
it's like
yeah,
I got so used because like I basically like learned like how to like write songs and like use a DAW at the same time, kind of synonymously. Like had like a drum machine and like recording like beats into a DAW and then recording vocals and like putting it on the grid and doing
yeah,
my loops and stuff like that. Like it was all at the same time. So like when I'm like composing and recording music now, it's all very much the same way. And like when I'm like in a studio, I'm like looking at how things are laid out. And I'm so used to like the drum tracks being here
yeah,
and
yeah,
this
yeah.
being here. And if it's like off, it's hard to just like close my eyes and trust it's gonna be right.
I know exactly what you mean. And a lot of the times, especially with DAWs, like they're very much so visual for me to keep track. Like, and so if someone maybe makes track stacks and collapses them all,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
I got to make sure. I'm like, I think we had a part here, but I can't see
Uh-huh,
it. So like, yeah, it's hard, but I mean that's an art in itself. Being able to work with other people, and I think for me personally, it's a problem that I have. Like I know it's a me problem that I need to be able to learn more and adapt and be able to understand someone else's workflow.
yeah.
I don't have to do it the way they do, but like if I want to be as good as I want to be, I need to be able to like learn from them and maybe take some pieces of what they do or understand what they're doing and why. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I need to like I think that the thing that I have found um the biggest issue that I have when it comes to my production style, since it is primarily rooted in electronic music production, hip hop, and just beat machines, digital equipment, is that a lot of it really lacks a human element that I desire as a songwriter now.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I really gravitate towards with working with other musicians and now trying to find potentially some like people to help me work with in the studio is bringing in that human element, but not to take over the robot that I am, but to find a way to meld it together. Because like I like the way that like my style is, my sound is my sound.
Mhm.
I'm not going to change it. It's it is who I am. But I don't like how like cold and metallic something sounds if I do it 100% myself. I need that like human
Yeah.
stuff brought into it.
And I think you'll probably relate to this. One thing that is so hard to overcome whenever you're the person recording yourself is the need to over edit.
Oh yeah.
When you're working with someone else, so someone else, you track someone playing drums, all the impurities, you're more likely, at least for me, to keep in because I'm like, no, I like the way that sounds. But if I record drums myself, I'm like, damn it, I have a click there that shouldn't be in there. I got to remove it because I'm like, it's not perfect. You know what I mean?
Drums, live drums are one thing. Do not let me look at the fucking grid on that screen when it's being tracked. Because if I see,
Yeah.
it's like, but then I think about like some of my favorite drum recordings and it's all that human push and pull, things being off the grid. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fun. Like, I DJ a lot and sometimes like I get bored and me and my girlfriend would be like, oh, let's mash up some like silly fucking tracks, right? And like you pull some old 70s, 80s tracks and it's like, oh, like those drums would be so sick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, it's in time, but it's not in fucking Serato time.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to get that to loop right. And it's like, fuck, you know what I mean? So now when we're like talking about like all these mashups and stuff, it's like, what year was it recorded? It's like, there's a good chance. Like, are we going to be able to get this thing or am I going to have to fucking like export out the stems, put it in the fucking Studio One, quantize it myself, then drop it back in to like do the mix?
That's a lot.
You could do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes but then it's like the feel of the part's different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure if you went back and quantized like all the freaking like ABBA stuff or like the Bee Gees, or Michael Jackson, especially like all his old records, it would totally kill it.
Yeah.
One thing I like to do when I record drums is my friend Caleb is the dude that primarily does it with me now. Is when he's tracking, I won't have anything playing through the monitors and I won't wear headphones. I will only listen to what he's playing. That way I just hear the drums. And if something's off, then it means it's really off.
Sure.
But like for the most part, I found that gets a really good feel and you can tell which one's like a great take. And it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm sure if I were to go back and look at the grid, I mean, I still quantize drums after the fact and I do go back and I see like things that need tightened up. But like before I even saw it, I knew it was good. So I can trust that like.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that like, it's like, I mean, with anything, it's like people will always take like a useful tool and then abuse it to some degree. Like, I think the idea of being able to like, okay, for the sake of brevity and for the sake of not over fatiguing a player, if there's a particular part and it's like, oh, okay, there's like one weird kick stutter or just like one weird section, it's like highlight that, fix that, great. You know what? We just saved ourselves 45 minutes and like your arms are going to be in good enough shape to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, we can get more stuff done. But you know, there's the flip of that where like we're going down a crazy rabbit hole. I'm keeping an eye on the time. We should probably stop soon. We're almost at 2 hours.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I mean, I'll talk to you for fucking ever. This is a great conversation, but you know, there's a time when the podcast should probably be done.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to let this go over 2 hours. So we'll just rapid fire these last 15.
Yep.
But a story about a producer who I knew, who, I mean, he's still alive and things like that. So it sounded very dark. But he, at the time in like the MySpace era, he was recording, like he had kind of a home studio set up and was recording a lot of the local kind of like post-hardcore, metalcore, Hot Topic t-shirt type wannabe bands, like bands that wanted to sound like Devil Wears Prada or Under Oath or any of that type of stuff, right? And you know, these are all like teenage young bands, and like he had a really good recording setup and a good ear for music, but all these recordings that he did sounded so fucking good, so everybody would go to him to record. But the issue was like, he was telling me in this podcast like years after the fact that like people would come in and record, and like he was just talking about like all the post stuff that he would do. He was really good at post editing stuff. So like, you know, he would just be like, you know, like, that takes good, cool. And then like go in and like quantize the whole thing. He even told me sometimes he would he'd see somebody trying to play something so much that like he would like learn how to play it just from watching them play it. And then when they left, he would like retrack the part just because like he wanted everything to sound good because he wanted his name to be good as a producer. And the question that I asked him was like, do you ever feel guilty about like making all of these bullshit bands like sound so good on paper? And he just kind of laughed about it, you know, because it was like the first time where like I was seeing like, because I would see these bands live. And it was like, none of these bands are anywhere close to as good as what this looks like. And this was like MySpace era. So this was also like when like the social media thing was starting to really turn, where it's like, okay, these bands are not good, but they have, for the first time, it's really easy. Like it's, you know, anybody that has a fucking MacBook and like an okay interface can like record stuff, quantize it, and fucking what's the Logic Pro?
I love Logic. That's what I work in.
You know, and like that had never happened. But like really before that, you know, I started like fucking making beats when I was in like 8th grade with like one beat machine and a fucking Windows 95 computer, you know, like, and that was it. And it was the technology was going so fucking fast. And now it's like not only are bands getting like these like kind of like fictitious recordings easily, it's like also, okay, now everybody has logos, everybody has like t-shirt designs with pre-orders coming soon, everybody can pitch in $20 to go buy like a bunch of MySpace friends for their band page. And it's like the first time you're starting to see like all of this like fake like stuff and like bands being able to make themselves seem a lot larger than life online than they were in the real world.
So
and
you
like
really
evolved.
got to see the market get oversaturated.
Yeah, it was
really cool.
Super interesting. And like it's in a lot of ways, it's actually, I think it's a little bit better now than what it was then, because like I think now there's like with stuff like the Reels and TikTok and like the implementation of video, I think that it's a lot harder to be like a fake person. You still have to have some kind of a personality on camera to like get yourself out there. But like in like the MySpace days, it was just like all you needed was just like, you know, just like some good images. Yeah. Catfishing is a really good way of putting it. I think it's a little bit harder for bands to do that now, but bands definitely still do it.
Dude, if you have the money.
Oh yeah. You know, there's a metal band in Pittsburgh And it was funny because like I had never heard of this fucking band before. And it was like this whole conversation is going to tie around here actually with this, because it's another fucking story of like people not knowing what they're doing. So never heard of them. I go on their Spotify and it's like some ridiculous amount of monthly listeners, like, you know, like 52,000 monthly listeners. They have like 2 singles. They both have a ton of plays. And then I go on like, you know, their Facebook and it's like, you know, like 32 people like this. I'm okay. Well, yeah, Facebook's Facebook. If they're a younger band, a lot of people don't use Facebook. That's fair. Then you go on their Instagram and it's like, oh, like, you know, there's like maybe a couple thousand followers. I'm like, okay, that's
maybe could explain it.
Something's a little off. It's like, sure, you could get on playlists and get some numbers, but like that's a lot of numbers, right? And then it got to a point where it's like, okay, like there's probably some bullshit here. That's fine. It's whatever. I get it. I've done that too. I've been in that road where it's like, we want to get on this fucking festival. The only way they're going to fucking let us get on this festival is if we have so many Instagram followers and this and this. Like, what the fuck do we do? It's like, well, we know everybody else is fucking paying for shit. So why don't we pay for shit? You know? So it's like, I've been in that boat and I've done that. And like afterwards, it's like, feel fucking gross.
Yeah.
You know,
thankfully I've never done that.
Feel fucking gross, man. Feel gross. I've been there. And it's like, but it's so funny because it's just like, you see like everybody else in your peer group doing it. And it's just like, and you see people in your peer group doing it and those people getting opportunities, you know, like, especially in the MySpace days, it was just like, how the fuck are these bands getting on these like opening bills for these fucking shows, you know? And at the end of the day, you know, it's all money and bullshit. And none of those fucking people are even playing music anymore. And here I am, you know, 15 years later, complaining with a stranger on a podcast about it. That's how it affected me.
Dude,
but anyways, that fucking band that I was talking about, the 52,000 monthly listeners, we finally play a show with them and they can't get their fucking backtrack and in-ears to work. You know, so it's the same fucking shit. You know, it's like, I've been there, but it's just like, you're just a band. And it's okay to just be a band now. Like, you don't have to like come out the gate swinging. Like, and so many people now, I think, know about like, oh, you can pay for things. So I think if you come out the gate like an out of nowhere, never heard of us, we have all of this stuff, immediately people are going to be like, that's not real.
Or like,
or maybe people that like aren't like music scene people might think it's like real. I don't know.
I think a lot of people can sniff out bullshit these days. That's why every comment section says like either Nepo baby or like industry plan or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But in my opinion, what I think is really exciting about time is time shows genuinity. So like that band that you played with that had those numbers, like you said, look at them now and look where you're at. Think about how much more accomplished you are personally with what you can do, what you've learned. You're still doing it every day. You're showing up. And so I think there's a lot of performative people that use music as a stepping stone to get the justification that they're looking for out of life, but it's not sustainable. You can only kind of do that shit for so long if you don't genuinely love it. Whereas like people like you and I, however long I live, I'm going to be dying and I could be like my last breath. And then maybe there's a radio playing in the background and I'm like, that song, you know what I mean? Like really interested.
Totally.
So like, yeah, I think time really shows how genuine you are about things and it really weeds out all the bullshit. So
yeah, it just sucks like when you like are feeling overwhelmed when you're like in the middle of it, you know?
Yeah.
And like, but it's just like, I just try to, you know, be thankful for what I have and be realistic about like, I know how much work I'm putting into all of these things. I know how many shows we're playing. I know the effort we're putting in. And if my fucking band has 75 monthly listeners, that's fucking crazy. We've been put, you know, it's like Grey Walker. I don't know how many fucking monthly listeners Grey Walker has right now. I'm actually pretty curious, but it doesn't fucking matter. We haven't put out any fucking new music since 2021. So if I were to go on on our Spotify and see like 30 listeners, I'd be like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's 30 people still listening to us every day. You know, I put out this podcast, you know, it's like my podcasts on average get like a couple hundred downloads. You know, I could go on YouTube and be like, oh, fucking Theo Vaughn's getting fucking 25K downloads in fucking 2 hours. But I am not fucking Theo Vaughn. And if there was 200 people in this room right now, we'd be like, holy shit, that's crazy. You know, so it's just, it's all like perspective and like bringing yourself like grounding yourself a bit, and like not like doing that in like a way where it's like diminishing yourself.
No, but being grateful and recognizing.
Being grateful and like realistic of the situation.
Dude, if 7 years ago I found out that I was playing in Pittsburgh at the Thunderbird Music Hall, May 11th, for my album release show.
Oh, is this a plug?
It's a plug,
that's
but
a
like,
nice segue.
It's a plug, but at the same time, like being truthful, I would lose my freaking mind. I'd be like, that is so cool. Like you're as like famous as Post Malone. You know what I mean? Like as you, the more you experience, the less crazy things become. And I think we start striving to reach for like the crazier. And then that's when you kind of like really get hard on yourself. But I think taking a step back, turning around and looking at the things that you have accomplished and being grateful and recognizing the path that you've made for your way. And like, it gets you excited about the path forward and feeling good, like feeling confident and feeling good about what you've done in turn, like truly feeling and being proud of what you've done is, I think, the only thing keeping us from like really going over the edge and losing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just like, be grateful for it. I just looked 130 monthly listeners.
Hell
baby.
yeah, man. That's like, my math was terrible too.
That's
but
double
like,
than what I thought it was.
That's like
when
more
I said
than that.
70, I was being
You
optimistic.
said 30.
And then I was like, 30 is probably more realistic.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, maybe we have 75. And I was like, there's no fucking way.
Dude, heck
That's
yeah,
good.
man.
Great.
Fantastic.
I'll take it. You know, we didn't pay for that.
Seriously. Like and how good of a feeling is it whenever you go on Spotify for artists and you see like number of people listening now, even if it's one, you're like, that is so freaking cool.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, just be thankful for it. I'm grateful that I even have the like ability and like the resources to like make music and release music, and like if people dig it, fucking sweet. If I can play more fucking shows and make some more money to do more cool things, then the band will grow organically, you know? And if we're not able to do that and things kind of plateau a bit for a bit, then I just need to be realistic about the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
like we're just chilling here right now.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean the weather isn't nice. Doesn't mean I'm not vibing.
Yeah. And that could all be part of what adds up to what happens in the future, because I lived my entire life never meeting you. You lived your entire life never meeting me. You did your music stuff. I'm doing my, like, have lived our entire existence. And then up until this point, because we did what we did, it led to this. Like it's insane.
Totally. And I think it's interesting too, when so many people were so like focused on like what's outside of the walls of my city or all this stuff. Right. And it's like, we've both been, you know, operating relatively frequently in the local music scene, you know, for the past, you know, better part of like, you know, 6, 7 years, 8 years, stuff like that. This is the first time we've met.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we probably live 20 minutes away from each other.
Yeah.
Just constantly crossing paths. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, there's always new like opportunities to meet people and to network and to grow. And like, you know, I feel very lucky to have met you and to have had this conversation today. Cause like, I feel like, again, like sometimes I feel like I'm going wild. It's like what's his name? Fucking Will Ferrell and Zoolander. I was like, He's like, I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah.
I feel like that guy sometimes, but it's like, no, I'm not. I just like give a shit. And there's like, I'm not saying that like everybody else needs to give the same amount of shit that I do. Everybody interfaces with art in their own way, but it's like cool to, you know, you see it in other people when you see people putting in that same work in a completely different section of like the same city. And it's like, there's so much more to learn and to experience and to grow and to build and to network here.
Absolutely, bro. I agree. And I know that I needed this conversation because I'm going to walk away from this fired up. I need it now more than ever. In a week, May 11th, I think I got this week and then next week. Like I have so many lights. I still got to program and all the stuff I got to do. And like, there's still a lot of work to be done. But like I needed another kick in the ass. So like this couldn't happen at a better time.
Hell yeah. So the release show is
May 11th at Thunderbird Music Hall. We got Sweat playing, which you had Sweat on here. You had
Tiny Wars.
You had Tiny Wars, yeah, which is like, I mean, it has Sue and then Abby. But and then Melt. You had Melt on here?
I haven't had Melt on here, but I've had their characters from that band
Okay.
have been adjacent.
Okay.
Yes.
So Sweat and Melt are there. So I wanted to pick two bands that I like the music. I heard Problem Child for the Hometown for the Holidays, and I'm like, that song's sick. So I asked them if they do it. They said yes, and I got Sweat. I'm a huge Sweat fan. I can't believe that they're in Pittsburgh. Like they're a freaking time capsule.
Yeah.
For 70s rock. So sick. May 11th, Thunderbird Music Hall. It's called. So we're doing the greatest hits is the album, but it's called The Greatest Show. There's going to be hot dogs. There's going to be a lot of crazy stuff. It's 70s themed. So I've been getting pictures from people. They're getting bell bottoms. They're getting denim vests, whatever.
Hell yeah.
Like, it's going to be absolutely, if there is a Kahone show to ever see, it is this one. I'm putting my heart and soul into this. And at the end of the day, it's all about having a good time. And hopefully the music's even better.
Fuck yeah. And all of this music is available online.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to hear it, they're just not going to hear it in the intended order, in the narrative order. I suppose. But it does exist. So please, by all means, go check it out.
Yeah, please check it out. Let me know if you like it. If you don't like it, let me know that as well. I like all opinions. You can trust someone whenever they're straight up with you. If you put out a song and someone's like, you know what I mean? That's someone that I can always respect their opinion.
Totally.
I'm not saying be a jerk, but
it's funny. Like I have I'm always pretty transparent with people, and when sometimes people will be like, "Hey, what do you think of this song?" It's like I'm always like, "Do you really want to know what I think of this song, or do you just want a high five?"
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just want a high five, I'll congratulate you for releasing it and not listen to it.
Sometimes that's what you got. You can get in a pickle. Sometimes being honest, you got to know when to do it and when not. That's something I'm not always good at, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Hey man, it's art. So, hey, I think we're rounding out here. We broke 2 hours, so oh well. Now the podcast police are going to come and get us.
That's okay. If you're a local band, I feel like this is something that they would be able to want to watch. I feel like just dudes talking about music,
totally. Well, if anyone is still here, thanks for hanging out with us. It was a pleasure. It was really, really great.
Pleasure
with
is
you.
all mine. I am full of pleasure. I'm a listening pleasure.
Yeah, we definitely gotta. We'll link up. We'll make something happen. Now that we're in each other's sphere.
Yeah, of course, man.
We'll be unstoppable.
If you are free May 11th, I got 2 tickets for you. So
I would love to come, but I am booked, baby. I'll be in Orlando, Florida.
That sounds fun.
But I'm stoked for your show.
Yeah, of course, man.
Yes.
Well, best luck in Orlando.
That's the awful thing about my recording schedule in this podcast is I do stuff when I'm home, and so many times people are like, "We got this fucking sick show," and I'm like, "Cool."
Sorry, man. I'm literally not anywhere near.
What I could do, I could record this podcast and tell people about it, but I can't be there.
Man. No, that's fantastic, and thank you so much for having me on here and listening to me and being my little therapist for today.
Hey, likewise. I appreciate it. So, I guess with all that being said, we're going to cut to me. That is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here. One more time. Ben, Kahone Concept. Thank you.
Hell yeah, brother.
Insert applause. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Brian Sykes-Howe. Start the Beat is the podcast. 2024 is the year. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace out. We did it. That was a fucking podcast.
Oh yeah, let's go, bro. Dude, good convo. Sorry, I freaking.
Nah, you're good.